is having any sort of issues whatsoever, whether they're just unhappy with themselves, they're unhappy with work, they're unhappy with a family member or whatever the case is, to a point where it's starting to affect their mood, it's starting to affect their sleep, it's starting to affect the way they eat, they talk, they drink, anything, that they could do the same, that they could look at themselves in the mirror and say, I need help. And it could come in any way. You don't necessarily have to like call the shrink and being like, dose me up, brother, because I need all those vitamins. It's sometimes it's just being able to just let go in a way, just to talk to someone. Something you could just call up a friend and say, hey man, I'm not feeling cool. Like, what's up? And then you just talk about it. Because sometimes by bottling it in, it could ruin your life. Or even worse, and I say worse because it's the heaviness that comes with it, it could delay your life in a certain way. There are things that, Drouin has done that, of course, all right, it's a little easier for him because of the access that he has. No doubt. But however, the fact that he still took the time is important, and it doesn't matter if he did it in the span of a couple of months, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it was. Some people have lost years because they couldn't face that music. So it's really important exactly to just get up, and let's just go for it. And we're hoping that, Jonathan is really facing all that and being like, hey man, this is it. And he just has so much fun and he really pulls it off this year. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm rooting for him. I think it's going to be a really fun season to watch. All right, on that note, let's go back to camp. No, not that camp. Rookie camp with the prospect heroes, Scott Cowan and Sebastian High.
The prospect heroes, Scott and Sebastian, on Puck and Roll.
Scott and Sebastian, our prospect heroes. I know you guys have been looking at rookie camp with absolute salivation. Sebastian, how about we start with you? I know there's a lot of talk about, obviously all eyes on Norlinder, all eyes are also on Caden Gooley and everything. But I don't know. There's a certain amount of people that are saying, oof, rookies are looking sloppy. I mean, what was it? I mean, I know you watched today's or Monday's rookie game against the Senators. Tell me what your thoughts about that.
I think a big reason that it looked so sloppy was because it was against the Senators, which and like their rookie team is basically an AHL team, whereas the team that at the Habs iced includes players that will never even hit the AHL. And it was just like the score lines make it look a lot closer in terms of quality between the teams than it was in reality. But despite that, I think there were a lot of like really interesting storylines that came up and just like certain players that really like stood out for the right reasons. And like Caden Gooley and Norlinder weren't exactly the ones that stood out, which is in itself a bit of a surprise. So Gooley, so Gooley did not play great in either game. He wasn't terrible, but he didn't play great. And it prompted a lot of these, I guess, angry like tweets from Habs fans that most of them would be in like the analytics community. And they are already saying like, trade Gooley, he's not going to be good. He's another Ben Sherratt. And I know some people on this podcast really like Ben Sherratt. I don't. I find him a bit painful to watch just with like zone exits and stuff. But look, Caden Gooley has played 12 games since the pandemic began. Like, give the kid a break. He's recovering from an injury. Like, you can't just make these monumental statements on any player in rookie camp. Like, come on, give the guy just like some time.
We just love to exaggerate, right?
Yeah, and like it's just, anyways. Like Gooley, he struck, like he's skating well, which is great. He had some really nice defenses against the rush, which is great, but his passing is off, and like for zone exits and stuff is a bit painful. But like that's something that he has to work on, and that he will work on, and that he will improve with. And Norlander really struggled in the first game. Like he got a goal, but like he did not play well in that game. He was getting overwhelmed by every attack. He looked really out of place. But in the second game, Goulet looked a little bit worse, and Norlander looked actually quite good overall. I thought he killed some plays very effectively. Like defense is never going to be his calling card, but he played well. And he had some nice like plays in the offensive zone. He's very brave in the offensive zone, and that's carried over from his play in Sweden, which I wasn't sure it would, because in Sweden, of course, you have the bigger ice, the bigger rink, so it facilitates the movement of defenders. But no, like Goulet goes all the way like up to like beyond the top of the circle on the power play. It's like a lot of movement, something that the Habs power play lacks is just movement, right? It's often very static. And he's fun to watch, but again, I don't think either player should make the team. And I don't think either player is really threatening to make the team as it stands right now. We'll see in preseason. But there are other players on this roster that stood out a lot more than these two, despite them being the biggest names.
Scott, let me ask you a question. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm still laughing a little bit at what Sebastian said about everyone panicking. You're like, it's rookie games, for Christ's sake. You know, like everyone is just like, let's get rid of him. Let's trade. Like, let's calm down. Let's take a deep breath. Everyone's allowed some bad games and everything. But my question to you is, we're not looking at the score, right? We're not looking at the collective play, right? I mean, if color me wrong, but I mean, I'm looking at the rookie games and I see, all right, it's an opportunity to look at the condition that the player is in. How will they react in certain situations? I mean, are they hot on this side or are they cold on this side? I mean, am I wrong by assuming that, or is it a completely different analysis when you're looking at these rookies in camp?
No, I definitely think that's a fair analysis to make, Patrick, because I always think back to a really old article that was written about Carey Price when he played against the Winnipeg Jets in a preseason game. And they said when it comes to the regular season, Carey Price won't be facing any at the time. He won't be facing any Logan Stanleys, because Logan Stanley at the time was just a random Jets prospect. As we know now, he was the guy who almost killed the Canadians in Game 4. That's besides the point.
Almost.
Rookie camp is, at the moment, Habs fans are just looking for anything they grasp at hockey-wise that they can just sort of take a look at. And that's the thing. They've been clamoring for more hockey. That playoff run obviously left a lot of Habs fans excited for the future of the team. And this rookie camp has given them the chance to see that very same future. With that being said, however, I think this is more of a chance to see how these players, as you stated, perform in different situations than any real value or any real meaning behind these games. The scorelines are just scorelines at the end of the day. And the Ottawa Senators have a much better prospect pool because that's the way their team's been built. They've been rebuilding for the past 4 seasons. And they're finally starting to see the fruits of their labor. The Senators could be a very, very good team in the next few seasons of all the players they have. As Sebastian said, they're more so an AHL team than anything else. While what the Habs drafts had guys like Tori Dello on the team, a 24-year-old defenseman who looked incredibly out of place in Game 1 and hopefully will not be signed to a contract. And if he is, let's just not even put that thought into our minds right now. But besides that, that's besides the point. I just think that for the moment, for guys like Goulet and guys like Norlander, it's just great to see them play and get to see them play with fellow players who they could be playing with in the future. I don't really think going into the schematics of whether they'll play with the Canadiens next season, let's trade him, he didn't have a good game. It's rookie camp. It's a chance to let these guys develop. It's a chance to let them play and see how they perform. And the thing else you got to realize is that Caden Goulet's defensive partner, it was a guy like Tori Dello. His defensive partner isn't exactly a proven NHL player, and that'll be the difference in training camp. They'll be playing with more proven guys, so I think it remains to be seen how they'll fare come next season.
Guys, who else is standing out in this? I mean, we keep talking about Norlander and Goulet, but is there anybody else that you think might cause a surprise? And Sebastian, I'm seeing you nod. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, okay. There are a couple of guys here that I was really impressed by. Not that they're going to threaten for camp, because they're not even signed to NHL contracts at this point because they were drafted this season. But
that's what camp is for, man. You know, it's
exactly.
for people to just display themselves and make themselves worth, basically.
The biggest standout to me would be Joshua Roy. And I don't.
Yes.
I think it's by a decent margin too. It's so a 5th round draft pick this year after going 1st overall in the QMJHL draft. And he was a guy where it's like, okay, pure skill, but the work ethic just wasn't there. He was 20 pounds overweight last season, and it was a wild card. But he was very done for his draft class. So you can also look at maybe it was just an immature year for a kid from rural Quebec getting used to just the city life too, right? And like you don't know. And he showed up in camp in great shape, and has been playing on the top line in both games with alongside Jan Mishak and Raphaël Harvey-Pinard, and he's been just as good as the two other guys have. Like, and that's saying something. Mishak is a second round pick from a draft earlier, and Harvey-Pinard is again one of our favorites on this show. We love him. He's just like the hardest working player you can imagine. And Roy, he's showing a work ethic. He's back checking hard. He's skating a lot better than he was even last season after his trade. Like he got traded from St. John to Sherbrooke, and he was starting to lose some weight. But even in those last games of the season, his skating was like a bit sluggish. But so far, I've been very impressed. It's not a standout quality, but it's not a weakness, which is already a great improvement, especially just for a couple months. And he scored today, in Monday's game here. He also got an assist.
Let me interrupt, Sebastian. Are you aware of if there was any deciding factor as to why he started losing all this weight? I mean, was there a coach that came up to him being like, "Yo, dude, your skating sucks. There's something that needs to be done."
So at least in his interview, he was saying that like apparently the nutrition on for the St. John Sea Dogs was just really bad, especially on the road, and he just got carried away, and he demanded a trade partly because of nutrition. So it was also just then during the summertime, he just got down and cardio, just to shed weight, and it worked. And he's been fun to watch. He had a great assist on Harvey Pinard's power play goal today, just cross seam pass, beautiful. He had a tip in, he had a deflection goal. He's been great, and that draft pick could really pay off.
I definitely agree with you there on what you're talking about, Sebastian, because even before the lead up to the NHL draft, way back when I was doing sort of mock drafts and stuff, I saw Waugh ranked us at the top 100, and I thought, hey, maybe it'd be fun if a team threw a pick at him in the early rounds, because the thing that's really nice about Joshua Waugh is his background. He's a former first overall pick in the QMJHL draft. He carries a lot of upside to his game. And I definitely feel like he's a player that when he puts everything together and when he gets his fitness going, when he puts everything, I think he could be a very, very talented potential NHL player in the future. He definitely has that upside to himself, and he was a first overall pick for a reason. And leading on from that, I think a lot of the guys that impressed the most in the Habs rookie camp were the guys who put up the biggest numbers in the QMJHL. You're talking about guys like Cedric Desvisseau, another fan favorite of this podcast, Xavier Simoneau, guys who already have these big time roles and they're given chances to show that big time ability. So I think going back to what I said about rookie camp, the guys who usually have put up the biggest numbers, this camp is the best place for them to show what they can do. Even if they're on a tryout, they get a chance to score a goal here and there, they might get a professional contract, maybe not with Montreal, but with another team down the line.
Yeah. And I just want to do a little quick fire round for just some other players that stood out for the right reasons. Okay, so William Trudeau, he only played in the first of the two rookie camp games. He was tremendous. He scored a great goal, but more importantly, defensively, he was incredibly solid. He was the best defender on the team in that game, surpassing Norlinder and Gooley. Incredibly smart player. I was really impressed. I think that his skating has also improved over the summertime, which is also good because before it was fine, but it needed to improve, which is awesome. Then Joe Verbetich, the goalie, played in the first game. He was really good. And he was a big wild card because he didn't play at all last season. And he played the year before at the draft -1 for North Bay, which is a terrible team, and put up bad numbers because it's North Bay. And he played very well. He conceded 4 goals in the end, but he played well, which is way more important, right? Like he got kind of left out to dry in some scenarios, and he had some really acrobatic saves, and I liked him a lot.
I see the highlights of him at the last game, and to be honest with you, and this is kind of what prompted me to asking that question to Sammer earlier. If something happens to Price and Allen, who do we got? And I'm looking at Radovich, I'm like, wow. Man, this guy's got skills. This guy is acrobatic like crazy. I mean, if you could just get the fundamentals down, and he's massive. Yeah,
that's the thing. He's a big intimidating presence in net, and you notice that right off the bat as soon as the puck is dropped. This guy's just a big presence.
He's lanky. He's big and lanky.
He's big and lanky. Got shades of Dominic Hasek.
Or going back to what we talked about earlier, Dustin Wolf, Sebastian Cossa. Yeah. I think just really quickly going right back to what you were saying about Sebastian, I just wanted to throw in 2 really quick prospects that I think were interesting, and these are guys that weren't signed, were wherever invited. And that's Mika Sear and Charles-Antoine Raw. And there's a difference between these two guys compared to a lot of the other tryouts at the camp, is that if you look at a lot of the statistics from these trial players,